I will talk to you of art, for there is nothing else to talk about. For there is nothing else.
You are now here in the nowhere. Attach electrodes to your organic sonic input. Tune in your cybernetic receiver, and make room in your memory's access chip. You are going to need it for the paradigm shift that is the PoJo Show.
Hello, and welcome to the PoJo Show. I'm Jedediah Smith, and I'm with my co-host and co-producer,
Batty Royale.
PoJo is short for Poetry Jockey, and what we do is sort of like a disc jockey on a top 40 radio show who spins a bunch of 3-minute songs in a row. But instead of songs, we play sets of short poem recordings, some with music, some with sound, some just naked words. For over 30 years, I've been collecting poetry and spoken word records, CDs, and tapes, as well as making live recordings of readings, and we use those to make these shows.
This episode is called Beyond and Back, Poetry of the Punk Era, featuring Exene Cervenka.
Okay, punk is not a term that really needs any definition, or at least doesn't for most people. But what do we mean by it for this show?
We are talking about an aesthetic coming from the late 70s, early 80s.
Well, it was just new music.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, it was the new music. I never really liked the term punk, but in the late 70s, early 80s, it was the music that was the most powerful, the most interesting, the most varied, the most individual, the least corporate. You know, there are certain qualities that are associated with it, a more stripped down sound, a more raw sound, a harder sound, sometimes a faster sound, but none of those really fit every band. Every band went in their own way. I'm just thinking of it in terms of the music that I was hearing, especially in Los Angeles, and one of the things that I noticed at that time and really affected me as I was going through high school and going into college was that a lot of these folks were writers and didn't just write lyrics for songs, but also wrote poetry for the page and spoken word, which didn't need either the page or a band. And so that's the kind of thing we're going to be featuring in this show. So why are we focusing on Exene? For one thing, we're not just doing Exene's poems, but we're doing hers more than anyone else.
Because Exene is really a punk icon. She's not a typical glamour girl, although she's very beautiful. She had her own style, you know, wearing her kind of granny country dresses and her scraggly hair. And she was part of the band X, as well as the Knitters, the Original Sinners, and she had a robust solo career of poetry and spoken word performances.
Well, we both love Exene's poetry, and we both love her band X, and think it's one of the very best bands of the era. And I think it's also important because 16 years ago, one of the reasons we met was because I saw on your profile that you were a fan of both X and Wanda Jackson.
That's right, and I remember looking at your LiveJournal profile. That's how long ago it was, children. And I saw that you liked them too, and I briefly actually thought you were stalking me because we had so many unusual things in common.
Exene and Wanda brought us together.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay, so specifically in this show, we'll be featuring, in addition to poems by Exene Cervenka, we'll have poems by Jack Brewer, who is the singer and writer for Saccharine Trust, as well as the Jack Brewer brand. We'll be playing Mike Watt and Dee Boon of the Minutemen, Alisa Alvarez of Alisa Alvarez, Shredder, a.k.a. Danny Weizmann, the genre-transcending Michael C. Ford, and Henry Rollins of Black Flag and the Henry Rollins Band.
We're going to let the late, great Peter Ivers start the show by playing an introduction from his groundbreaking show, New Wave Theater.
People might know New Wave Theater from being played on Night Flight, and Night Flight was on the USA Network. Even though that term, New Wave, was one that a lot of people in punk or the new music, really didn't like because it was sort of the corporatizing of the wilder, more creative music. And Peter Ivers' show was really important. It was the first place I saw X. It was the first place I saw Fear, Circle Jerks, Plugs.
45 Grave.
It's just an incredible number of bands who would never have gotten on television without it.
Yeah, if you've never seen New Wave Theater, do yourself the favor of finding it. We're going to hear a clip from it, but you really need to drink more of it in because it's really not like anything else.
Yeah, the visuals are incredible. It introduced this quick cut collage, montage kind of thing that you weren't seeing anywhere else. Peter Ivers, kind of a tragic figure. He did a couple albums himself before punk music. It wasn't really the kind of music he was doing, but he really was in his element as a host. He was killed in his sleep. It's kind of a mysterious death. He's a guy that did a lot of incredible work, and I don't think he should be forgotten. And you can get a real taste of his style. We're going to have his intro to one show start this show, and then this is going to be a 3-part show. At the end of our 3rd part, we'll let him close that out as well.
So after Peter Ivers, we're going to play our first set of Exene poems. We are going to play You Start Out and Life Always Knows, which is from the Twin Sisters spoken word LP, which has Exene on one side and Wanda Coleman on the other side. And that album was recorded at McCabe's Guitar Shop.
And produced by Harvey Kubernik. And we're going to have a lot of bounce from Kubernik's Freeway spoken word records, which sort of followed close after the music, getting a lot of people to do spoken word pieces on vinyl. He did a trilogy of albums, and we're going to pull a lot from those. And one of the great things about him is that they're sort of tape transcriptions of place and time. So you don't just get a bunch of people walking into one studio and Kubernik recording them. He grabs tapes from them playing at places like McCabe's Guitar Shop, which did a lot of great shows, the Lhasa Club, or on the Spoken Words program on KXLU with David Yu, or the Poetry Connection on KPFK with Wanda Coleman and Austin Strauss, of course Rodney on the Rock, and the late great Radio Tokyo recording studio. So you get a lot of history in just the places that this stuff was recorded. After Exene's first poems, we're going to play a poem called Rhythm or Suicide by Jack Brewer, singer, songwriter, poet, raconteur, prophet, punk rock Moses, wandering the wilderness of charburgers and pup and tacos, calling down plagues on corporate pharaohs. And we'll just roll on from there.
That is quite the introduction.
Well, Jack Brewer's quite the guy.
Understood. And we'll play some music and sound bites from the era throughout, because for our generation, this is a wisty-rusty ramble down memory lane.
Tonight's Ghost Hurts in 2. We welcome you to New Wave Theater.
Hi, welcome to New Wave Theater. Monitoring the new music scene is a journey of discovery into the minds and artistic souls of its artists, and leads to a genuine understanding of the meaning of art today. Songs are rituals, patterns of conscious energy constructed with intention. This energy has a definite positive effect, and on its highest level, it points out the future by mirroring the present in such a way as to cause changes among us. But there aren't enough conscious creators operating to guarantee a future worth having. Let's face it, we can't expect any better living conditions in this country or on this planet until the right people realize the inner nature of their true identities and start including life-supporting information in their work. Those who recognize the importance of this have an obligation to themselves and to others, a responsibility based on universal necessity. One of the last roads to freedom left is through the world of art and entertainment, and it may very well be that these creators will make the vital difference between divinity or doom for humanity. Remote as this may seem on Earth, we must reach the point where nothing but perfection is possible. We condemn ourselves to conflict and survival struggles till we realize the divine intention living in each and every one of us. Enjoy the show.
Exene Cervenka is an Aquarius, and in fact today is her birthday. She used to live in Florida, where she wore platform shoes and disco danced in gay bars. She hitched a ride to Venice, California, and got a job and an apartment at Beyond Baroque. Eventually, she moved uptown to a basement in Hollywood. Since then, half of Hollywood has been torn down, but what do you expect? As singer and songwriter for the band X, her television credits include Dick Clark's Rock and Roll Special at Knott's Berry Farm, Putting on the Hits, and the Jerry Lewis Telethon in Las Vegas. Exene is also a member of the Knitters. Both bands play many benefits, including X's show for Beyond Baroque, which brought the Literary Center 10 G's. Exene wants you to enjoy yourself, and don't be afraid to laugh. After all, she laughed when you came in. On behalf of Harvey Kubernick, Freeway Records, and McCabe's Guitar Shop, please welcome Exene Cervenka.
You start out with a shot glass, and you end up with a measuring cup. Thank God for fast forward. I'm not one to dwell on the past. I've always got my eye on the future. Oh, Christ, here it comes. Look out. Duck, is it gone yet? Life always knows what's best for you. You know that, don't you? If your dick gets stuck in neutral, well, it's just a brief resting period. Until a better thing to stick it in comes hopping along. So there I was, hopping down this dark alley. Life always knows what's best for you. Someone's looking for a victim and you are provided. Someone needs money. Life will give them you to fulfill their prayers. A man needs a woman. Incidentally, you fit the bill, but the butcher won't take his check. Isn't life funny? Isn't it handy to hand you over as a handout?
One Saturday I took a walk to Zipperhead. I met a girl there and she almost knocked me dead. Oh, girl, please look at me. What do you see? Let's travel around the world, just you and me, punk rock girl.
California, a governor's task force has determined that punk rockers are society's new subversives and must be treated as such.
One creature, caught in a place he cannot stir from in the dark, alone, outnumbered hundreds to one, nothing to live for but his memories, nothing to live with but his gadgets, his cars, his guns, gimmicks. Forget the old ways, brother, all the old hatreds, all the old pains. Forget and remember, the family is one.
On the course set by ancestral skulls and wallowers, we traced along her desert curves till every man that ever walked these plains was a subject to its loss and gains. No time is truly ours, but I tell you it's never up. And who in the Isle of Elijah could ever call our bluff? You can wish and wish, but you need only accept what is. And as time pushes on, the band will play your song. I'll show you the sights that could bloat the eyes of a suffering Christ, and all the evils that ever constricted hearts of good men who dared to search the reaches of the imagination. If you'd humble yourself to know, you will never return. So we danced with the brothers of the falling creed, till our feet were singed and weighed to their afflictions. And we cried, there is no synchronization! Here, take us now. And you can hear the tales of the ones that failed if you back our trails to the nearest water holes where they sit with their sons and talk of what they could have done, what they would have known, and how we must and will push on. Take us now.
In the year 3000, there are no Olympic Games, World Series, or Super Bowls. There is only death sport. David Carradine and Claudia Jennings are super warriors fighting the evil forces of a future world. I can survive your death sport. If you were thrilled by Star Wars and awed by Close Encounters, don't miss Death Sport, a new world picture, rated R, under 17, not admitted without parents.
I call my Volkswagen the push cart because it pushes me around about 100 miles every day. And when something's fucked up with it, well, I don't let nobody fix it. I fix it myself because if I'm gonna fuck it up, it's me. And anyway, my Volkswagen, my push cart, it has little rhythms in it that get inside of me while I'm driving, and while I'm getting dirty and filthy in it, and fixing it and fucking it up, and, well...
Ronald Reagan, what about government's role in offsetting the negative consequences of the free enterprise business community you talked about?
Now you get back to what I said earlier. What I'm talking about is the free marketplace, free enterprise, the regulations that government exists to have and are necessary is, yes, to ensure that someone can't sell us a can of poisoned meat.
I like food, food tastes good. I like food, food tastes good. Juicy burger, juicy fight. Too late, lady, Robin style. Teenage girl, what type of two? Now my way or I'll eat too. I like food, food tastes good. I like food, food tastes good. Just in time back and eating. I like food, food tastes good. I like food, food tastes good.
I was just explaining it to the boss the other day that, you know, me and the other crew and the rest of the crew can get together and, you know, I'll walk off the job and you know, come up with some conditions for our work to be more human. And he just said he'd fire us all and hire somebody else tomorrow. All these men who work the land should evaluate themselves and make a stand. Can't they see beyond the rhetoric, the lies of promises that don't mean shit? These are the men who will learn to change things. These are the men who will learn to change things. They keep themselves hidden away. They keep themselves up on the hill, afraid of the day they'll have to pay for all the crimes upon their head. And all the men who learn to hate them. And all the men who learn to hate them.
Ronald Reagan, you can see and understand the America of dirty streets and poor people.
The problem isn't being poor. The problem is Plenty in 1984. So poverty isn't 1984. Frankly, I had not noticed the needy. I hadn't paid any attention to it. They've been there for decades. 1984. Too many of the needy and too many of the non-needy. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't let it interfere with my sleep.
Wake up! Is every number where it was? Has this dream stopped?
Some fun when Smelly Gun plays Private Eye, and you can have the same kind of fun with Mattel's Tommy Burst Detective Set.
The Tommy Burst has automatic bolt action. Fire off a burst of 10 shots. Pull the bolt again, you're reloaded. Or fire single shots like a rifle.
You just clamp the snap.
Tommy Burst alone is $3.
You just
In the
clamp,
detective set,
clamp
you also
the
get the Snub Nose 38 and Snap Draw shoulder holster. The pistol fires green stickum caps and shoots safe shooting shells. The exciting new Tommy Burst Detective Set includes wallet, badge, and ID card. $7 wherever toys are sold. You can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
How many years do you give the planet, Lee?
6 months in a day.
6 months in a day.
You'd know, wouldn't you?
Huh?
You'd know.
Lee, is fear a rich man's pleasure?
I sent $10 to God, and he told me.
Is fear a rich man's pleasure?
Ask me something I can answer.
Fear.
Hello there. I'm George Putnam. I'd like to begin with a fact. A simple yet shocking fact. It is this. A flood tide of filth is engulfing our country in the form of newsstand obscenity and is threatening to pervert an entire generation of our American children. We know that once a person is perverted, it is practically impossible for that person to adjust to normal attitudes in regard to sex.
The blood will trickle, spurt, then gush, the way cheap paint spills into shallow buckets. No one will know anything happened until a horrible stench forces my landlady to break into my apartment and find my defunct flesh lying on the fetid, stained carpet. She starts to cry as she thinks to herself, she didn't even pay this month's rent. Her meaty little fingers replace the receiver, and minutes later a few taciturn men in careful white coats remove my body. A large-eared neighbor drools as the carpet is being shampooed for the new tenant. He hopes it will be another young girl, so he can break in and rape her.
Another day, another man. This is the story of women who thought they earned their money the easy way. only to find that they had to pay for their sins.
Big man in a dark suit took my money. He beat my face. It didn't seem too funny. Now I gotta start all over again. 'Cause I'm a prostitute, my job never ends. And I can't go home 'cause I don't like homework. I gotta get high, I have to be a prostitute.
Hi, Mr. Duke Mergen! A new report names punk rockers, heavy metalers, and satanic groups the new violent youth gangs in California. It says they hold nothing sacred.
It's kind of out here now. Everybody's hearing about it.
I know,
About
they
what?
they rob graves, right? And degrading animals. And
You do all that.
I do it all.
Well, I hope some eavesdrop on you for all the icicles you dropped on me. Superior and cool. I got my deluxe pad. A 3-bedroom, 3-bath condo in the valley. It's the one bed makes it deluxe, not the garage door opener. Dishwasher, or microwave oven that I exploded an egg in. A man lived here. If you're a 70s hippie, you may have heard of him. He took a knife from this deluxe pad kitchen and hacked his mother to death about 10 months ago. But I'm here now, and he's in jail, so they're renting the place out. I found a letter from his father, and it said, May 13th is Mother's Day. What are you going to do about it? I ain't only got a Jones. I keep trying to use Johnson in a sentence. I know it's going to be good this summer. At the Sideshow bar on Hollywood Boulevard, I saw, in the ladies' room, don't throw toothpicks in the toilet. The crabs can pole vault. But underneath that was the Olympic 6 ring thing. Those were Olympic crabs. So I can tell it will be a superior and cool summer.
Some people think little girls should be seen and not heard, but I think, oh, bondage! Up yours! 1, 2, 3, 4!
This is my hate poem. I hate myself, and I hate Hollywood Boulevard, and I hate California Institute of the Arts, and I hate notebooks, pens, electric typewriters, and vodka martinis, guitars. I hate girls and women and the U.S. mail. And I hate the rain check room. And I hate the dedications on KRLA and the radio in my car. I hate 101, and I hate Highway 5 North. I hate the Valley. I hate Newhall. I hate the 805 area code. I hate myself, and I hate the rent that I have to pay on this bed, and I hate sleeping, eating, and walking on sidewalks. I hate men, and I hate the Beach Boys. I hate film, video, cameras, sluts, and whores. I hate UCLA and LeConte Junior High. I hate the United States, Canada, and England. I hate Frankfurt, Germany, and Zurich, Switzerland. I hate clothes that need mending. I hate the sins of the past. I hate your past. I hate the present. I hate your wife. I hate the music business. I hate poetry. I hate transmission fluid. I hate children. I hate animals. I hate sex. And I hate love.
glasses. If it wasn't for my doctors, I wouldn't even be here.
Evangelical Hootenanny, Alligator fortune teller. She performed some magic tricks for his enjoyment, but still he refused to appear. She bought a ticket to a ball game and a ticket to a nightclub and saw double. Finally, she could stand it no longer. Finally couldn't. She jumped out in front of his Ford and yelled, "Turn this boat around." Now comes he. May recites this lovely poem. I am interested in your presence, present in your absence, disturbed by your disturbance, and turbulent in your wake. I walk with a disturbed walk, but don't disturb my dance, and let's dance.
Again, a loss, no matter the cost. Again, a loss, no matter the cost. You're wasting your time, you're wasting money, so get out of here, yo. Trapped in my back, all of the things that you did. I don't wanna leave you, just leave you and play you. You're wasting your time, you're wasting money, so get out of here, yo, 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 yo.
James Brown for president. Why, what with Reagan being a geriatric prune and Hart being dreadfully boring, and Mondale never far surpassing the mundane, it's time for someone who's going to cut the mustard thin. Now, I know it's been said before, and it's probably been said before that it's been said before, but it hasn't been said enough. James Brown is a monster. He has never had anything at all to do with the human race. Humans simply don't kick sacrificial booty for senseless blazing hours the way the man does. He is both rain shower of sweat and last gasp sprint. The man on his own should be an Olympic event. Or how about a James Brown gig to save the whales or the commies or something, and we pay James B by the buckets of juice that ooze from his pores. The fact is that James Brown isn't even funny. He's fucking beautiful. Most Toyotas don't last like his voice, and when was the last time any car had to zoom through the stop-start exertion of any one of his tunes? It isn't even an issue of good, and it has nothing to do with the fact that his band wails a deadly urban sax that twists and splits for you on the disc itself, and it has nothing to do with his sharp afternoon glow threads. It's the simple power of the thing. Let's off the motherfucker and put his vocal cords in the Smithsonian. Ladies and gentlemen, James Brown for president.
Hey! People like these are heroes for the 80s. A sick society.
I have a poem that I dedicate to Henry Rollins, who is a cultural anarchist, and it's called Ammunition. I got a weapon. It's really my perception. I know who's free and I know who's a slave, and I'm waiting for the world to admit it's insane. I know what I know can sound hyper, because I can't really let you know what I know until I see what I say on my typer. I know who's free and I know who's a slave, and I'm waiting for the world to admit it's insane. I know what movies are made by demons on binges. I know what music swings on hideous hinges. I know what women wade through a poet's blood wearing high-style Gucci galoshes. I know the media pimps who crucify modern prophets on their prefab, high-tech, greed-head Golgothas. I know who's free and I know who's a slave, and I'm waiting for the world to admit it's insane.
Forget about the kids in the Peace Corps. The kids from good homes who volunteer to work the slums. The kids who go to school and go to work. Sure, they're dissatisfied. You ever meet a 17-year-old who wasn't? When you're 17, you're full of enthusiasm and ideas, and you're boiling over with energy. You want to change things. So you look around, you see a lot of things that need changing.
A real short piece, no big deal. It's what I would do if I had to run the world. And everyone wants to run the world. Well, it's okay to admit it. If you don't, you should be working for me. I got a job for you. I'm in the favor of the right to bear arms. Guns. Yeah. Shiny new guns. Fine. I'd like to take it a little bit further. Everyone should have the right to bear nuclear arms. A revolver under every pillow. A silo in every backyard. If it was up to me, I'd like to change things around a little. I'd have every Caucasian male castrated. except for me. The police would be taking the black and Mexican districts and beaten 3 times a day. Finally, they would have to crawl on their hands and knees through Watts. You would not be allowed to drive your car unless you were intoxicated. Signs would read, if you don't drink, don't drive! Drug abuse would be mandatory in all states. Live sex in every classroom. All students would be de-virginized by the age of 11 by any sex partner they chose. Any. There would be one and only one version of the national anthem, Hendrix at Woodstock. All ministers would be required to drop large quantities of LSD 3 to 5 times a week. They say they see God, I want to make damn sure. All cigarettes would be sprayed with angel dust. Nothing like a little dust to get the party really rolling. All TV religious figures would be required to enter mud wrestling matches with MTV personalities. Anyone caught stepping on or harming cockroaches in any way whatsoever would be shot. Any children, I hate kids, any children that look good enough to be eaten will be. Public parks in all states will provide barbecue spits and all outdoor areas for this purpose. Porno stars would be sent to the UN. Madonna would buy me a pad in Malibu and seek me desperately. The time is now. Turn on. Take over. Let's get cancerous.
All the animals come out at night. Whores, skunk pussies, buggers, queens, fairies, dopers, junkies. Sick, venal. Someday a real rain will come and wash all this scum off the streets.
Welcome to the Arena Central, may I take your order, please?
Yeah, I want...
You want Bill Sperm with that? No!
Last piece was Henry Rollins doing a really early spoken word for him from the late 1980s. Rollins is somebody who really doesn't need an intro. He has been everywhere. He is everywhere. World traveler, stand-up tours, done his own talk show, syndicated radio show, syndicated newspaper column, TV and film actor, lots and lots of both. Rollins is probably the most ever-present character from this era.
Longtime lover of Glenn Danzig.
Ooh.
Salacious. We also heard music by the Descendants, Wiener Schnitzel.
And before that, Michael C. Ford doing his panegyric for Rollins, with music provided there at the end by Black Flag, Swingin' Man.
We heard Shredder do James Brown for President.
And both those tracks were from the spoken word compilation Neighborhood Rhythms.
We heard music by The Plugs, A Gain, A Loss.
And before that was Exene doing Evangelical, Hootenanny, Alligator, Fortune Teller. That was from English as a Second Language, which was part of that spoken word trilogy with Neighborhood Rhythms.
We also heard Exene, Hate Poem, Read Over the Germs, Shutdown, Annihilation Man.
And before that was Exene's Superior and Cool Summer. Both of those poems were from Twin Sisters, and the music was by X-Ray Specs, Oh Bondage, Up Yours.
And then we heard one of my favorite pieces, Exene, Eavesdrop.
And before Exene, we had Alisa Alvarez. She didn't even pay this month's rent. And the music there, I Want to Be a Prostitute, was by Alisa, just under the name Alisa, and that was kind of a local Los Angeles hit. I mean, it was a hit of sorts, maybe not nationally.
We heard two short word pieces, some asphalt journalism, Powder Traffic, by Minutemen D. Boon and Mike Watt, both off of Neighborhood Rhythms.
And we put in some Fear, Let's Have a War, along with an interview of their lead singer Leaving by Peter Ivers on New Wave Theater.
That takes us back to the beginning with Jack Brewer's poem and his band's workout of Psalms of Glory and Exene, who opened the set. Thank you for listening. Next week, we'll be doing part 2 of 3, Beyond and Back, punk poetry featuring Exene Cervenka. And we have a few other ideas, but we also want to hear from you. We have a lot to play, and we'd like to play recordings that listeners send in to us of live readings, home recordings, words set to sounds or music, whatever you've got.
So hey, if you're out there and listening and you have a recording of your poetry, if John Doe from X is out there listening and you want to send us a poem, yeah, we'll probably play your poem, John. Or who else?
Obviously, Exene.
Keith Morris of Circle Jerks, Bug Lamp, various other groups, Black Flag.
Justin Sullivan. We've always got room for you, Justin.
Dave Alvin of the Blasters. Phil Alvin. You got anything to say, Phil?
Mike Watts. Tell us about your cycling regime.
And George Hurley. Why so silent, George?
And if Joey Ramone can hear us, we'd really like to hear from you, Joey. We need you.
Contact us through the nearest crystal ball.
Or Ouija board.
Stiff Baiters.
Oh, Stiff Baiters is really important to punk. He was part of the Dead Boys, who are sort of at the second wave of punk, but so noisy and beautiful. Stiff, reach out.
We accept poems from all artists beyond the veil. Please, if you enjoyed the show, give us a thumbs up and a comment on Podbean, YouTube, or our site, jedediahsmith.net. If you didn't like the show, oh bondage, up yours.
So until next week, stay safe, cats and kittens.
And speak freely.
But don't spit. It's gross.
Yeah, you gave Adam Ant conjunctivitis.
Do you think fear is a rich man's pleasure?
Ask me something I can answer.
Jesus.